Good evening, everyone. So great to have you all here. Before we start, I want to let you know that we will be recording tonight's debate. My name is Minaz Asani Kanji, and our family lives in Scarborough Centre. I, on behalf of the many, many people who have worked to put this debate together, would like to welcome you to the Scarborough Centre Provincial All Candidates Debate. It's a beautiful May evening, and you could be doing so many things this evening, but you have chosen to be here to learn about the candidates who want to be the Scarborough Centre's next MPP. We are grateful for your time and really heartened about the interest in the debate. Thank you so much for coming. It takes a village, it really takes a village to organize a debate. And I would like to take a moment to thank all the people and the groups who have made this debate possible. Green Pack, they're a nonprofit working to build environmental leadership and government action on the environment. Toronto East End Climate Collective, a nonpartisan collective of East End Toronto residents who are very concerned about the climate crisis. The Friends of Terraview and Willowfield Parks, a local group that organizes events in the park. More Neighbours, a group that's advocating for houses. TTC Riders, that's advocating for transit. Scarborough Community Action Network, a network of Scarborough groups working on issues in Scarborough. Agincourt Community Services Association, an agency in Scarborough. Birchmount Community Action Council, a Toronto community housing group that works at Birchmount and Eglinton. Seed Canada, a group that works on environmental issues in underserved communities. Climate Fast, and Councillor Michael Thompson and his staff. And John Beers, our moderator. We're very grateful to him, who's going to be doing 2 debates in a week. And finally, to the candidates, the 3 candidates and their staff, for all the back and forth and for being here, because if you weren't here, we wouldn't be having a debate. So thank you so much. Thank you again for attending, everyone. And here's looking forward to a really great debate. Do we have somebody here from Van City? Okay, Kathy, I'll pass it on to you for the land acknowledgement.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Can I see a thumbs up if you can hear me? Hear my voice? Thank you. Good evening and welcome. My name is Kathy Nasati, and I'm a member of the Toronto East End Climate Collective. To begin our gathering, I want to acknowledge that before the creation of this country known as Canada, this land was home to Indigenous people for millennia before the arrival of settlers in the 1600s. The place we now know as Scarborough is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, and is now home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. There is racism and genocide woven into the history of Canada, and it is necessary for all of us to make steps towards the reconciliation and healing by learning, seeking, and finding ways to take concrete action in solidarity with Indigenous peoples. I'm going to put 2 links in the chat. I invite you to take a look. The first link is for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. And in Scarborough, there's a new Women's Healing Lodge being built by the Thunder Women's Healing Lodge Society. You can learn more by checking out the link. Thank you very much. So now over to our moderator for the evening, John Beers. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is John Beers. I am a resident, business owner, and community leader in Scarborough, and I'll be moderating tonight's debate. Welcome to all of the people of Scarborough Centre. All 4 major candidates for the riding were invited tonight, and we will be joined by 3 of those candidates. Fatima Farouk from the Green Party of Ontario, Mazar Shafiq from the Ontario Liberal Party, and Nathan Shan from the Ontario NDP. Dave Smith from the Ontario PC Party declined the invitation as he had a prior commitment. They will all have an opportunity to introduce themselves to you in just a moment, but let me just explain a few of the rules first. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening remarks as well as 2 minutes for closing remarks. The order for these remarks have been randomized. The candidates have been provided with the prepared debate questions on a number of topics, which will be asked by myself, and they will have 2 minutes to respond to each of these questions. There will also be a portion of the debate for the questions from the audience. Those audience questions, the candidates will also get 2 minutes to respond. In order for the debate to keep moving along and to allow for enough time for the audience question, the candidates will be given a signal when 15 seconds is left in the response time. And at the end of the allocated time, we will thank them very much for the response and move on to the next candidate. Please also remember to keep yourself on mute whenever you're not speaking. This is for the candidates, and not to talk over or interrupt the other candidates. Okay, as I mentioned, the audience at home will have an opportunity to ask the candidates questions as well as writing them by themselves. They can do that by, if you look down at the bottom of your Zoom box there, you'll see a Q&A section. You go in there and you can write questions to the candidates, and they'll get those questions asked to them. Okay, so now let's give our guests a moment to introduce themselves. First, we will go with Fatima, then Mazar, and then Nathan. Fatima, if you'd like to begin, thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Fatima Farouk. I first just wanted to thank the debate organizers for all their hard work and for having me. Debates like these are so valuable and they wouldn't be possible without your efforts. And to all the attendees who are with us and watching, thank you for taking time in your busy schedules to be here with us today. So just going into a little bit about who I am, there isn't anything super interesting really. I am a 22-year-old and I graduated from the University of Toronto with a specialist in neuroscience this year. And I have held many research and volunteer positions as a student. And I have current affiliations with the Hospital for Sick Children and the University of Toronto Faculty of Medicine. I have a passion for health research and advocacy, and I aim to target barriers that hinder Ontario citizens from receiving culturally appropriate and needs-based care. Furthermore, I aim to bridge the gap between research and knowledge translation to best inform future policies and practices that will meet the employment, transportation, safety, and housing needs of Scarborough Centre residents in ways that are equitable and sustainable. A little bit more about me. I have held various leadership positions when I was an undergrad. In 2020, I co-founded a club at U of T called UTM Acts of Kindness, which is where we advocated for the needs of the homeless and other vulnerable communities in Mississauga. I am also passionate about youth mental health advocacy. I've been a public speaker with Jack Daughter for 50 years. And for the last 2 years, I have also been part of Empower Her, a program that encourages young women to become more involved in their communities and engage in civic action. I truly believe in the power of youth leadership and teamwork, and I aim to collectively amplify the voices of the Scarborough Center community with the efforts of its youth and many residents. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Mazar? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to thank the organizers of today's debate for giving us this opportunity to virtually come together. It's important that residents of Scarborough Center have the opportunity to hear directly from us. And I would like to thank all of my fellow candidates who have taken the time to be here today. It is such an important part of our democratic process. I would like to start by sharing a little bit about myself. Like so many in Scarborough, I came to Canada 20 years ago to build a better life and provide more opportunity for my children. I studied engineering in Pakistan and worked in the automotive industry in Canada before entering public service. My wife and I have raised 2 sons, and it's for them and all our children that I am running. I know the challenges facing families in Scarborough because my family has lived those challenges. Throughout my career, I have worked to ensure the diverse and often unheard voices of the communities like ours are heard by those that make the decisions. Now I want to be at the table as their voice. I will be a strong voice that champions the progressive values of Scarborough Center, fighting to deliver affordable housing, strengthen healthcare, and protect seniors in care, and make life more affordable. A representative that recognizes the diversity of Scarborough and works to bring all of us together. I am proud of the progressive platform the Ontario Liberals have put forward, from restoring full rent control to becoming a climate leader once more, from investing in public transit to taking the HST off prepared meals under $20, from ending for-profit long-term care to ending Ford's war with nurses and raising wages for PSWs.
Okay, thank you, Mazar. Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Nathan Shan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me to this debate. My name is Nathan Shan. I use he, him as my pronouns. And I want to start by acknowledging that I'm joining this debate from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. And as somebody who settled on this land and somebody seeking office, I want to extend my solidarity and reconfirm my commitment to continue to stand for Indigenous rights. I have served Scarborough in multiple ways. I'm currently a resident in Scarborough and raising my 2 sons along with my partner Tadsha in Scarborough, and it is very close to me that I'm able to be in a position to be seeking office in Scarborough. But before that, I also want to kind of quickly also acknowledge the work that went in behind putting this amazing debate together. All of the organizations, many of them I have had the chance to work with in the past. Thank you very much for doing this. It's an important part of democracy, and good to see the candidates here as well. I do have to say that initially there was a different date. I had booked that date, but there was a couple of date changes. Today, as a survivor of Tamil genocide, there is a memorial stuff happening today with a lot of young people that I have to be present with. So I will be, unfortunately, leaving around 7:45. I'm running to fix things. You know, there are a lot of things broken. Successive governments have our education system broken. As a teacher, I saw it firsthand. As a youth worker in school, I saw it firsthand. Now, as a parent, I continue to see it. And so education system needs to be fixed for good, not band-aid solutions. And healthcare system, there's multiple things that we'll be talking about, but it's important to have real progressive leadership to fix these things, and NDP will be offering that choice to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, all 3 of you. So shall we move on to our first question here? And We're going to continue the order in which you guys spoke, but in this case, Mazhar will go first, then Nathan, and then Fatima. And here is the first question, and it is on jobs. So approximately 30% of workers in Ontario work in precarious jobs. However, due to discrimination in Ontario labor market, workers who are racialized, women, and recent immigrants are much more likely to take on precarious work. This equals lower wages, fewer benefits, and a low likelihood of being unionized, ultimately incentivizing employers to create bad jobs. If elected, how would you and your party prioritize equitable work legislation, policies, and practices to better protect all workers in Ontario, regardless of the type of work or contract, gender, race, or immigration status? And like I said, Mazhar first, then Nathan, and then Fatima, and you have 2 minutes each. Thank you. Mazhar?
Thank you for this question. The pandemic put into stark relief just how unequal our economy is. Those with office jobs more often higher income could work from home. Those with jobs that required them to go in, such as food service or warehouse logistics, more often racialized and lower income had a greater risk of COVID exposure. I don't need to tell you, a lot more people in Scarborough are in the later group. And when the recovery came, we saw employment for women did not recover at the same rate as for men. We need to build a fairer economy. Ontario Liberals have a plan for economic dignity that starts with a $16 an hour minimum wage. We will provide all Ontario workers with portable drug, dental, and mental health services and mandate 10 paid job protected sick days for all workers. We will build toward a 4-day work week, which would boost quality of life, work-life balance, and provide much needed relief without a loss in productivity. And we will restore common sense commitments to workers that Doug Ford canceled, like equal pay for equal work.
Want me to go next, John?
Yes, please, Nathan. Thank you.
Definitely a question very close to my heart, because I've worked with a number of organizations in the past around campaigns to have decent work, including Workers' Action Center. NDP will start with a commitment of $20 minimum wage in 4 years, and as you know, start with 16 and keep increasing. We are in strong support of having workers having access to unionization, because that is a critical part in getting decent working conditions, safe working conditions, and equal pay for equal jobs, equal work. It has been our work in the past 4 years to be pushing that, and we'll continue to champion that. In saying all these things, you would have heard a lot about the NDP platform online, but I wanted to say that, as somebody who had championed creating jobs for youth, meaningful job opportunities for youth, banning paid internship in the past, unpaid internships in the past, I have had my work directly in this field, working to make sure that internationally trained professionals are acknowledged and their credentials are recognized is another critical work that I've done for many, many years as well. So all of these work that I've done, I bring that experience to the forefront to advocate for decent work, equal pay, better working conditions, sick days, and in fact, having the workers' rights respected, including repealing the Bill 124 that is frozen the salaries and have in fact continued to have situations where we have downward spiraling of the economy. So to be able to advocate for this, you need somebody who has a track record of having stood for these causes, and that's my track record, because I've been on the picket lines, I've been at different demonstrations to make sure that I'm there to voice for these concerns.
All right, guess I'll go next. So the Green Party of Ontario is all for creating inclusive and accessible communities while providing employment opportunities and increasing people's accessibility to workplaces, services, and facilities that will meet their financial and living needs. To ensure that we protect all of our Ontario workers, we will provide them with full and equal access to employment rights and benefit programs like EI, CPP, WSIB, as well as equal pay for equal work, regardless of whether the employee is permanent, part-time, temporary, or casual. We would immediately end the practice of deeming, whereby the WSIB unfairly cuts benefits to workers if they do not work a job that they are deemed to be capable of doing. Ontario Greens would increase the number of provincially legislated paid sick days from 3 to 10 and ban the requirement of sick notes when an employee is ill. We would also immediately repeal Bill 124 to ensure public sector workers' wages are not capped at 1% increases and to ensure they have the right to collective bargaining for the wages and working conditions they deserve. Furthermore, the Green Party will increase minimum wage and we will move towards a universal basic income for all Ontarians. A basic income will do more than just alleviate poverty, as it will eliminate the red tape people experience when accessing social services and supports. Furthermore, our party will provide resources and training opportunities for youth and women to train and work from home. For some, leaving the house is simply not possible, and we have seen from the pandemic that people indeed have the capacity to work virtually. By giving such training and opportunities, we can take back some work that we have supplied to other countries, especially in the service industry, and supply these jobs to people in Ontario.
Great. Thank you very much, all three of you. Okay, we are moving along. And our next question is on housing. Due to a massively unaffordable housing market, an increasing proportion of residents in Toronto rent their home. Wait lists for affordable housing are unimaginably long. Many of our newcomer and immigrant clients in Scarborough Centre are forced to live in poor quality high-rise apartments. They face daily struggles with bed bugs and repairs, and most spend at least 50 to 60% of their income on rent. How do you intend to work with municipalities to improve the quality and affordability of housing in Toronto and offer better protection to the tenants? And in this case, we're going to go with Nathan first, then Fatima, then Mazar. Go ahead, Nathan.
Thank you, John. Housing, I want to start housing related things, including homelessness as well. NDP has a very strong program to end chronic homelessness in 10 years. And that's a real commitment and NDP has had for a number of years. Housing is a human right, and we have to approach it from that angle. We will help people buy a home by giving them 10% of the purchase price for down payment. We are going to help 311,000 households pay the rent with direct financial support to protect them from bad apple landlords, evictions, and unfair above the guideline rent increases. We're going to be building 100,000 affordable homes and 60,000 homes with support. This is critical. The definition of affordable housing has been switched around so many times that what sometimes gets claimed as affordable housing really is not affordable housing. It's important to kind of have supportive housing as well that supports folks who might have additional needs in addition to housing, such as mental health. Rent control. NDP will bring back rent control and make sure that the new tenants will be paying the same rent the last tenant paid when they left, to avoid evictions and ways in which unfair treatments are happening. Home conditions in Scarborough, in many buildings, in some of the places where many international students are living, is deplorable. And so landlord related monitoring and stuff are important. I used to be a city councillor and champion landlord licensing processes where landlords could be held accountable. So as a provincial politician, I will be able to champion that together with the municipal government to make sure that our families are not expected to live in substandard housing conditions when they pay this much rent. Regardless of what they pay, they should be given a healthy environment to live and nurture their children.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, next is, I believe, Fatima.
Just to confirm, this is the housing question, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So right off the bat, I have to be very honest, this saddens and angers me. Canada is a first world country, but we have people living in third world country conditions. I really sympathize with all those suffering under their current circumstances, but the fact that anyone can allow for this is sickening and inhumane. As a country, we should be more responsible for the lives of the many people we bring into this country. We all have a responsibility to everyone, especially our children who are our future. As a green, housing affordability and creating safe spaces for living is our top priority. We want to build livable and affordable communities that work for everyone without recklessly paving over green space and wetlands, which will also undoubtedly impact the lives of our children and youth in the future. With regards to providing security and support for renters, the Greens plan to, one, reinstate rent controls on all units to regulate rental increases year to year and implement vacancy control to limit rent increases between tenancies. Two, we plan to update and strengthen sections of the Residential Tenancies Act that deals with the state of repair for multi-unit buildings to ensure that tenants have homes that are safe. And three, we want to strengthen the rules and penalties for renovictions and bad faith evictions to keep apartments affordable. If I'm elected, I will call for a reinstatement of rent controls on all units in Scarborough Centre to regulate rental increases year to year and protect tenants from being unfairly priced out of their homes. With regards to affordability, I'm going to add security and stability for renters and create more pathways to home ownership. Furthermore, I will work to increase affordable housing options within existing built-up areas through secondary suites, triplexes and fourplexes, courtyard apartments, and mid-rise buildings. We need strong, connected communities where people can live, work, play, and shop with access to the essential public services they need. And as a Green, that is what I will work for.
Thank you, Fatima. Mazhar.
Thank you so much. And that is a really, really important question. As you know, I came to Canada 20 years ago with my two sons and my wife. And, I started as an engineer. I faces the challenges getting job into my own field. I started from survival jobs. So I lived in apartment buildings for 12 years. So I can totally understand the issues. Too many Scarborough residents are trapped in housing that is ill-suited to their needs, unable to move for fear of a massive rent increase. Home ownership for too many seems an impossible dream. Housing affordability is going to take a team effort. No one government has all the answers and all the levers. You need the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipalities working together with a coordinated approach, and that's been missing. And paving over the green belt to build a superhighway to help your developer friends, as the four Conservatives want to do, will do nothing to help people in Scarborough. What will help people in Scarborough is our commitment to restore full rent control, which Ford weakened by ending it for new builds. We will work with cities to end exclusionary zoning policies and allow homes with up to 3 units and 2 stories to be built in residential areas. We will ban new non-resident ownership and tax empty homes. Housing should be home, not an investment vehicle. And we will double the pace of home building to help both renters and first-time home buyers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Har. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next question, which is food security. But I'm also going to, just for the sake of anyone who joined us late, remind you who we have with us today. We have Fatima Farouk from the Green Party of Ontario, Mazhar Shafiq from the Ontario Liberal Party, and Nathan Shan from the Ontario NDP. Dave Smith from the Ontario PC Party was not able to join us. Now, on to our next question. Also, just again, for anyone who has joined us late, you will be able to ask your own questions in a little bit. You can put those in the Q&A portion at the, in the little Q&A box at the bottom of the screen here. Okay, our next question is about food security. The number of people accessing our food banks and other food security initiatives has increased dramatically throughout COVID-19. Many are looking for new and innovative ways to address food security, such as repurposing land into community gardens to grow their own fruits and vegetables. If elected, how do you plan to make land and green space more accessible for people across the city who need to be able to feed themselves and their families? Now, this question will go first to Fatima, then Mazhar, and then Nathan. Okay, go ahead, Fatima.
All right, so as part of our party's plan to create a new climate economy, we want to protect farmlands, to build a stronger food system that supplies food on all of our tables. Undoubtedly, a part of the process of attaining food security is allowing people access to lands and gardens where they can grow their own food. So the first thing that I would do as an MPP for Scarborough Centre is provide startup funding and land for community-owned healthy food markets, community gardens, and rooftop growing spaces. Secondly, I would work with the school system and parks to create opportunities for our children and youth to learn how to garden and grow food. I would collaborate with various parks and provincial lands, and we would work on allotting plots of land for growing food, as well as receiving funding to provide gardeners with the supplies needed for this. Not only will children learn to grow food, but they will also learn the value of food. And children can then bring food back to their families or donate the rest to food banks. On the topic of provincial lands, many are left alone because they are meant to become future highways or buildings. We can figure out which lands will be used for provincial plans, like building highways, infrastructure, and if they're not presently being used for what they're planned to be used, then we can look at approaching these areas as places to garden and grow food. Other than this, we also have to think about making food accessible to everyone. And I'm so happy that there currently exist nonprofit organizations, which are often youth-led, that have done so much since the pandemic and even before to ensure that people have food on their tables. As MPP of Scarborough Centre, I would plan to work with these organizations and provide funding to strengthen current programs and provide the supports and opportunities needed for youth and community leaders to amplify their ideas and take the advocacy and volunteer efforts to the next level. As a community, we should look out for each other, and that is something that I will continue to support and encourage if I were elected. Thanks.
Thank you, Fatima. Mazar.
Great question. As you know, the life is becoming increasingly unaffordable, and the rising cost of food is putting many families in a difficult situation. I have visited many of the food banks in our community during the pandemic and conducted food drives. People on the front lines tell me just how many families are food insecure, and they just cannot keep up with the demand. We have to start by tackling affordability. I'm thinking of the single mom who works 2 minimum wage jobs to provide her kids. She doesn't have time to cook healthy meals for her family after a long day at work. A Liberal government will remove the provincial HST off of prepared food under $20, making it more affordable for her to pick up something healthier for her kids on the way home. I'm not sure there's a provincial policy lever when it comes to community gardens, as that's likely within the municipal jurisdiction. But I think growing your own food is a great idea, especially for people in apartments without easy access to suitable land. So I would certainly be a community champion for such initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Nathan?
Thank you. Last couple of years during the pandemic, I had led a food drive and donated collectively with community support 16,000 plus pounds of food each year, and including the Scarborough Hub, Dorset Park Hub through AXA. I think it's important to have a provincial food strategy. So Ontario NDP will create a provincial food strategy that puts healthy, locally sourced food onto Ontario tables. I will also regulate the price of gas to lower the cost of shipping food, helping to make it more affordable at the grocery store. And there's a monopoly in grocery chains that end up charging quite a bit and taking advantage of the situation. So we would have a code of conduct for grocery stores, improving transparency and fair dealing in terms of the grocery industry. But more importantly, what I wanted to say is that as having been a school board trustee and helped develop a lot of nutritional breakfast programs for children, having been a city councillor who supported community gardens. There's a wonderful community garden in Malvern, Malvern Family Resource Center runs it. There is lots of experience that I bring in terms of bringing communities together. So whether it's my jurisdiction as a provincial MPP or not, I will be bringing stakeholders together to make sure that our communities have access to affordable, healthy food, and that could be done by providing that facilitative leadership that is necessary. I will also continue to push, including the work that NDP has been doing, is to push for more grants so that local communities can access grants to develop those community gardens, develop those nutritional programs, and so on. So it's important to tackle this issue head on, but the most important thing is to make sure that families have the income by paying at least a minimum wage of $20 in 4 years to make sure that they can access the food that they need.
All right. Thank you very much to all three of you. Okay, our next question is on the environment and specifically climate change. Climate change is deemed a priority in the province of Ontario by the constituency. Central to how the provincial government addresses climate change is equity. Where does equity stand for your party? What will your government do to put equity into action, and how should your constituents hold you accountable as an MPP? We'll go with Mazar first, then Nathan, and then Fatima.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. You know, the climate emergency is happening now. Ontarians know this. They see it when they are driven out of their homes because of floods and fires. Doug Ford's decision to make pollution-free by scrapping cap and trade cost the province $3 billion and has not been replaced with any real plan to meet our emission reduction targets. Liberals will make Ontario, we need to hold this party accountable on June the 2nd. Liberals will make Ontario a leader in climate action again. We will reestablish Ontario's leadership on the environment, cutting greenhouse gas emissions by 50% below 2005 levels by 2030. Our transit plan will take 400,000 cars off the road. We will designate 30% of land as protected areas by 2030, up from 10%, and take the equivalent of 500,000 cars off the road by planting 800 million new trees over the next 8 years. In addition, we will expand the Greenbelt and create 5 new provincial parks. And we will create 25,000 green jobs so Ontario can harness the opportunity of the emerging green economy. This is a real achievable plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mazar. I believe, Nathan's next.
Thank you. We have a very solid plan around addressing climate change, and it's in our Green New Democratic deal. It's 2 minutes is not enough to highlight everything, but I'll quickly go through some. We plan on planting 1 billion trees in 2030, net zero emissions by 2050, having Ontario's first zero emission vehicle strategy, ramping up electric vehicle sales to hit 100% by 2035, electrifying all municipal transit by 2040. There's lots of targets in there, but I wanted to go back to the beautiful way in this question is framed as an equity question. You cannot address climate change without having a framework of equity. Supporting low-income families to be able to access the different green programs, to be able to do that in their homes, to do retrofits, to be able to have them participate meaningfully. Having young people, we have a first Climate Youth Corp program that we said we will establish in Ontario, where young people will be part of the solutions in terms of building skills and so on. So it's very, very important that we take into consideration environmental racism. When we talk about climate justice or environmental justice, racial justice has to be part of the conversation. Economic justice has to be part of the conversation. And they are not separate and they are not mutually incompatible. They actually go together if we know the core reasons of how some of these things have emerged and been ignored. So I think having that framework, having worked in training community organizations around environmental racism, I can bring that angle to Scarborough, because Scarborough definitely, communities in Scarborough definitely feel the brunt of both economic injustice, but also environmental injustice, many times due to the socioeconomic status and the race. So I would be a champion in addressing that.
Thank you, Nathan. Fatima.
Yes, so it's an interesting question. So we're a Green Party. We're all about helping out the climate, and the issue is that things are getting bad, with the climate. Some of us take it seriously, some of us don't. But what will happen undoubtedly in the future is that our children and our youth will be affected, undoubtedly. And the problem, if we don't act now, we won't get anything done. It's now or never. There's so much that we are going to do as a party. We're going to phase out fossil fuels, move to renewable clean energy sources. We're going to increase access to electrical vehicles and charging infrastructure, make buildings energy efficient. We're going to support municipalities to be climate leaders. There's so much that we plan to do. But there's the equity piece as well. So, for our party, equity is a process to achieving equality. There are 17 sustainable development goals of the United Nations, which is what Canada is trying to fulfill and attain by 2050. 3 of these SDGs include climate change, reduction of inequalities, and gender equality. For the Green Party specifically, building a caring society is one of 3 of our central tenets as a party. So we want people of our province to be able to access quality healthcare, education, and social services that are equitable and just. Still today, there are various racialized communities, women, people with disabilities, and 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals who disproportionately face barriers in accessing financial opportunities, education, and quality healthcare. For Ontario Greens, this is unacceptable and just unfair. Our government will work to improve the quality of life for people living with a disability. We will prioritize gender equity, fight to eradicate systemic racism, and support and improve the rights of 2S LGBTQIA+ communities. And just recently, Mike Schreiner announced that we will double ODSP rates for people living with disability, and there's so much more that we are going to do.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, all of you. Now, I'm looking at the time here. Nathan, we're going to lose you in a couple of minutes, right? So maybe you'd like to give us your just wrap up for you, and we'll give you 2 minutes to just finish up. Unfortunately, you have a prior commitment. So if you'd like to maybe do that now, and then we can move on to the next question. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, John, and thanks everyone for attending this session. As I mentioned at the start, because of date change of this debate and because it's Tamil genocide remembrance is happening, and as a survivor of Tamil genocide, I have a group of young people that have organized something that I need to be at, and I've already kind of taken half of it, most of that into this debate to be here because it's important to be participating in this. As you saw, I don't use notes. I usually talk from my heart. Any of you can feel free to contact me for any of these questions that you have, and I'll be able to answer those questions anytime. I'm not shying away from debate, but unfortunately today I cannot be here longer. But I have to say that, NDP is very close to unseating the government that has done a lot of harm in the last 4 years. But it's also important to remember that 15 years of Liberal government prior to that has broken our healthcare system, our long-term care system, our education system, as well as a teacher. I saw it firsthand. So it's important to have the party that can fix what's broken and a leader that can fix what's broken. But it's also important to have a local candidate who is a grassroots organizer, an activist. That's who I am. I'm an activist first before being a politician. And I will be working hard every day to make sure our voices are heard, that Scarborough gets its fair share and the respect that we deserve, and that equity is at the forefront of all the work that we do. So thank you very much for having me. I know the other topics are very close to my heart too. I wish I could be here to talk about them, but feel free to check out our website and our platform. We have a detailed plan for transit, healthcare, and other items that you're discussing today. And hopefully on June 2nd, please vote for NDP, vote for me, and I will be making sure that I will live up to your expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Now we will move on, though, to our next question. If you're able to stick around, but I do know you do have to go. Thank you very much, Nathan. Okay, our next question is on transportation. When the RT closes, Scarborough residents will be taking replacement buses for at least 7 years. Essential workers, racialized, and working class people rely on buses every day and need more frequent, reliable service. More service is the best way to increase ridership and tackle climate change. If elected, how much transit operations funding will you provide to the TTCs so that they can run more service in Scarborough? So Fatima will be first, and then Mazar.
All right, so I know how important the RT was and is to the residents of Scarborough, so I can understand the frustrations of its closing. The way that this issue is currently being tackled is just sad. As Greens, we want to triple public transit trips by 2030 by making transit clean, convenient, frequent, fast, safe, affordable, and accessible. By 2025, we aim to triple dedicated bus lanes and double later on if needed. By 2030, we want to add 4,000 electrical and fuel cell buses. We also aim to make off-peak transit use cheaper and more popular with time of day pricing. We aim to grant all municipalities the same powers as the City of Toronto to levy a local municipal vehicle registration tax, provided that the funds raised be dedicated to transit and to active transportation. TTC Transit will be a major part of our plan, and we will prioritize our work with them to ensure that commuters get to where they want to go in an efficient manner, and such that we also reduce carbon emissions and our overall carbon footprint at the same time. To make long-term transit affordable, we will restore the 50% provincial cost share for transit operations, which will also help fund regional transit in Scarborough. But I understand that what commuters are currently facing is a time-sensitive issue, and no one wants to wait 7+ years for change. So ensuring more service in the city is something that I will work very hard to make happen. Of course, none of these efforts are possible without the ideas and voices of Scarborough residents. So as an MPP of Scarborough Centre, I will work effortfully to amplify your voices and get things done. I believe that change within the community does not depend on a single person, but on the efforts and voices of residents passionate about enacting change in their communities.
Thank you. And Mazar. You're on mute still.
Thank you very much for this very important question. I think last week I was at a rally organized by TTC riders, and I pledged 3 things there. First one was provide, so our liberal platform, we will provide operation funding for transit. Second was we will help fund the Eglinton East LRT. And third one was funding integration between GO and the TTC. You know, a time spent commuting is time not spent at home with your family. And if we want to get people out of their cars and onto transit, we need to make transit efficient, reliable, and affordable. And Ontario Liberal government will reduce fares for every transit system in the province, including the TTC and GO Transit, to $1 per trip and $40 for a monthly until 2024. We will replace the lost revenue for transit operators. This is going to get more to park their cars and give transit a try and help families struggling with a rising cost of living. But if we want to stay on the bus, we need to give them more than a cheap ride. We need to give them a better experience. We will invest $375 million in additional operational funding to support more routes, extended hours of service, improved accessibility, and more intercity connections. While the PCs are focused on paving over the green belt with an unneeded highway, Liberal will invest in better transit for Scarborough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more of our formal questions, and then we will start to get into the audience questions. So audience, if you haven't put a question into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, please feel free to do so now. Our final, as I say, formal question is on health. And well, the COVID-19 pandemic has called greater attention to many sources of stress in Ontario's healthcare system, such as understaffing, a lack of culturally relevant services, unaffordable mental health resources, and long wait times. These challenges will be exacerbated by climate change, driving an increase in heat-related conditions and respiratory and infectious disease. If elected, how will you and your party work to make healthcare more accessible for all Ontarians while reducing the burden on our healthcare workers? And it looks like we're just going to be going back and forth now. So Mazar, you're first.
Thank you. We have applauded our healthcare heroes who were on the front lines of this pandemic, but the Ford government has not treated them like heroes. Their war with nurses put more pressure on an already overburdened system. A Liberal government will repeal Ford's Bill 124, hire more nurses, speed up foreign credential recognition, and pay them fairly. We will raise personal support worker base pay to at least $25 per hour. And we will clear Ford's surgical and diagnostic backlog with a $1 billion investment in additional capacity over the next 2 years. We will also invest in mental health. In 2022, if you don't have a mental health plan, then you don't have a healthcare plan. We will train 3,000 new mental health and addictions professionals and reduce wait times for mental health care. And we will invest $1.9 billion with the Scarborough Health Network to strengthen healthcare in Scarborough and expand the number of beds locally by 30%. Finally, we will invest in long-term care for our seniors, and we will end for-profit long-term care in Ontario by 2028.
Thank you. Fatima.
Yes, so this is a great question. And as a member of the BIPOC community and the child of immigrant parents, this one really hits home. Let's start off first with mental health. The Green Party of Ontario believes that mental health is health. Our vision is for a system that is affordable, accessible, comprehensive, and easy to navigate. We must expand our mental health services covered under OHIP and expand community-based mental health services. Underlying issues like access to safe, affordable housing and meaningful employment are essential for our well-being and mental health, and we have included such factors in a reform plan that has 10 key strategies. I cannot go over all of them in the allotted time, but some include enhancing mental well-being with connected communities and expanded access to natural trails, parks, and protected green spaces. We also want to increase mental health spending to 10% of our health budget. We want to build 60,000 permanent supportive housing spaces under our Housing First strategy with wraparound mental health supports. And we want to reduce wait lists to 30 days or less for children with children's mental health services. With regards to healthcare overall, our party does not want a province where patients linger in hospital corridors waiting for care that is efficient and culturally appropriate. At the same time, we also understand that healthcare providers are overburdened. That is why we have a strong focus on preventative care and providing supports to healthcare providers. As a preventative strategy, our party will improve environmental determinants of health by prioritizing clean air, clean water, and access to healthy local food in all communities. We will also increase options for primary care, such as community health centers and nurse practitioner-led clinics, to ensure access to non-urgent 24/7 care. But to support our healthcare workers, we will immediately repeal Bill 124 and the problematic sections of Bill 106, and we will also fast-track credential approvals for 15,000 international healthcare workers, including nurses and personal support workers.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you, for answering all of our questions there. Well, at least the first few. Now we're going to move to some from the audience. And the first one is, if elected, will you help fund the Eglinton East LRT? Toronto City Council has allocated $1.2 billion to connect Kennedy Station to Malvern via UTSC. So I think, Fatima, you're first.
Just see the Q&A here. Yeah, I mean, this is something that is very important to the Scarborough Centre community. But before I make any sort of promises like that, I would like to sit down. I like to sit down with people and truly understand what everyone's going through. And of course, talk to people in my party before I make such decisions. And, thank you for bringing this question up. But at the moment, I cannot answer this question. But if it's something that, a party can do, we would definitely look into that.
Thank you. Ms. Hara.
Oh, thank you, John. So as I mentioned, I was at the rally organized by TTC Riders last week, and we, as Ontario Liberal Party candidate, and as a Liberal Party, we pledged three things, and we said we will invest $375 million in annual transit operating funding, and we will also fund the Eglinton East LRT and fund integration between GO and TTC. So yes, I commit that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question from an audience member. There are bungalows on Brimley and backing onto McCowan, walking distance to Scarborough Town Centre. that developers are demolishing and building monster homes. Attempts to build triplex or quadplexes are not allowed, even though these units would be less expensive individually and enable more neighbors to live here. What will your government allow as the maximum density by right? And Mazar, you're first.
1 second, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I think planning is a delegated authority to the City of Toronto. When elected, the Ontario Liberal Party will commit to working with the municipalities to build affordable housing in our communities. I will work with our municipal representatives and residents to build inclusive housing. And that is my commitment, and I will definitely work on that.
Fatima?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, the Green Party is all about creating homes that are accessible and affordable, and building large homes like these that are not very affordable is not what we want, right? So, we support building triplexes and these other sorts of homes where more people can live and affordable and clean. And definitely this is something that we would work towards, as housing is one of our key three pillars, around what we do as a party. And this is something that we are quite passionate about, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question, also getting a bit into development as well. In Scarborough, we are seeing enormous amount of development with no responses to supporting infrastructure such as schools, water, sewage, and transit due to the effects of densification from 6-story buildings to 20, 30, 40, and 60 stories. What is your stance on this type of development? Do you agree or disagree with this type of development favoring developers versus established communities? Fatima, you're...
Sorry, I was like, see the visual. Let me see, where's the question here?
Question would be in the chat if you
In the chat. Let me see, yeah. 1 second. Okay, we're seeing non development, no response, supporting infrastructures, school sewage, transit due to the effects of densification. Yeah, so this type of development is, if it's not helping the community and, it's not supporting infrastructure to schools, water, sewage, and transit, that I do not agree with that. We want for a cleaner environment, and we want people to be able to live sustainably and live in an environment that's affordable and that will support the education and quality of life of children and of families. So and allow for transit opportunities for kids, for example, that go to school, right? And also for families. So yeah, I do not agree with this type of development and favoring developers versus established communities. That is unjust. Like, I will say, I live in a community where there are many big developers developing industrial buildings behind my neighborhood, and we had to delegate multiple times. And now these companies are in the courts because what they're doing is actually illegal. So there's a lot that goes into this, but I stand with the community. I stand with the people. I do not stand for big profit corporate companies that just put others, such as community members, into situations that are precarious and unjust.
Thank you. Mazhar.
Yes. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the Ford government has shown us that they will favor development by their developer buddies that we have seen. The Ontario Liberal Party is committed to stopping Highway 413 and using the $10 billion committed to that project to invest, build, and repair schools right here in Scarborough. This means higher quality education for our children, smaller class sizes for our children, and more equitable access to education for our children. Only the Ontario Liberal Party can stop Highway 413 and invest that money into our community right here in Scarborough Centre. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Okay, so here is another question sent in by an audience member, and it goes like this. Recently, I phoned for an appointment with my primary doctor and was given a date 3 weeks in the future. This is a normal wait time. Why so long? We don't have a shortage here in the GTA, but these family physicians are paid far less than specialists. Family doctors are necessary for good health care. Are you committed to a pay raise for family doctors, and what will you do to encourage it? And Ms. Har, you're up first this time.
No, thank you so much. It is a very, very important question. We have seen the cuts to healthcare by the Ford government. And that's why our liberal plan for healthcare, it mentions that, we are going to reduce the surgical backlogs. Everybody, we need to make sure that everyone have access to the family doctor. I commit to supporting doctors, nurses, and building healthcare system. I am committed to investing in higher education and building the Scarborough Center a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Fatima.
Yes, so this is a very great question. Yeah, waiting can be very long, and sometimes you wait and you end up with a condition where you have to be rushed to the emergency room, and that's not good for you, and it's also not good for it overburdens many healthcare providers. So yeah, it's a harsh reality that some healthcare workers are not paid as much. Family healthcare providers especially, they're not paid as much as, say, surgeons and other healthcare providers. So that is why, as a party, we want to immediately revoke Bill 124 to allow healthcare workers, including nurses, and the 91% of them are women, to negotiate fairly for the wage increases they deserve. It's sad that they do not earn as much as the effort that they're putting into making sure that our society is healthy and well. So this is sort of my answer to this. And of course, if any of my answers are insufficient, or you'd like to talk more about this, because I understand the time is also limited to each answer, I'm also willing to have a chat with you personally. And I'll give my email later on too. That's okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. Does your party believe that the percentage of seats a party gets should match the percentage of votes they get? And Fatima, you're first.
Okay, let me just see. To be very honest, I did not know how to answer this question. What I do believe, though, overall, is that the people that majority vote for, I don't know if this maybe could end up answering the question, is the people if they vote a lot for, say, a certain party, they should win, of course, and that's what happens. And if there's more support for certain people, then that's that. Whoever gets the most support, whether that be through percentage or maybe they get vocal support, maybe through media, whatever it may be, I definitely believe that they should win and stand up for the needs of the community. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Har.
Thanks, John. The Ontario Liberal Party supports ranked ballots in Ontario. Stephen Del Duca, the leader of the OLP, commits introducing ranked ballot elections. This will result in better representation in Scarborough, allowing for Scarborough to receive equitable and progressive representation. For far too long, we have elected leaders who do not voice the needs for our community, and I am committed to improving this for all residents in Scarborough. If you elect me as your representative, I promise to fight for all residents in Scarborough Centre.
Thank you. Okay, next one gets a little bit into our environment, an environmental question. Plastic bags, especially at grocery stores, are ending up in our garbage and our landfills, both here and abroad. Will the party support a ban on plastic bags at all grocery stores?
Okay, so what I can tell you, the City of Toronto has, I think, committed to making Toronto net zero by 2050. And as an Ontario Liberal Party candidate, we support this agreement. this only happens by phasing out single-use plastics. We will work with all levels of governments to meet our national environmental commitment.
Thank you, Fatima.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that we want to do. We want to support a ban on single-use plastics, and the Green Party of Ontario, we would implement a ban on these by 2025, and that is the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me go to the next question from an audience member. And it goes like this. It is disappointing that the PC candidate chose not to attend, as I wanted to ask a school board trustee who is elected to defend and fight for public education is supporting a fight for public education is supporting a party whose policies are cutting and creating unsafe conditions in our schools. Can the candidates who did attend discuss what their thoughts are on the staffing cuts that will impact all of our public schools in our riding next week? Fatima, you're first.
Yeah, so let me just, it's a long one there. Oh, it's not in the chat yet. Yeah, so is this the question regarding staffing cuts? So will I support that or not support that? Okay.
Yes, I can read the last part again. Is what you need is, can the candidates who do attend discuss what their thoughts are on staffing cuts that will impact all of our public schools?
Yeah, so who did attend? Yeah, so staffing cuts, I do not agree with that. We need people who work at schools are so essential to our educational system, and we don't want unsafe conditions in our schools, right? We need to we stand for public education, we stand for supporting youth and children, and people who work to support youth and children, to get rid of them, that's just it's horrible in my eyes. It would definitely impact public schools on a great level. I can't even stress enough, and it's just something that definitely I do not agree with.
Thank you. Mazhar.
Thank you, John. So you can see PC candidate David Smith's non-attendance this evening, and as a trustee speak for itself as your representative. With regard to education, by defunding Highway 413, the Ontario Liberal Party, we are pledging to take 10 billion from Highway 413 and going to invest in our education system. Doug Ford has cut $1.3 billion in education, and the Ontario Liberal Party reversed those cuts and going to invest in our schools, in our communities. Only I and the Ontario Liberal Party can stop these cuts and reintroduce meaningful investment into the local school system for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. If there is just one positive thing that you would like to see happen in Scarborough Centre over the next 4 years, what would it be? Hopefully there would be more than one, but if there's just one, what would it be? Mazhar?
So what I want to see is, I want to see people live a more comfortable life, a more affordable life. Of the affordable crisis right now going on, and the housing affordability and all those kind of challenges. So I just want to see that people live a more comfortable life.
Fatima.
Yeah, so this is a really great question, and of course I would want multiple positive things to happen for Scarborough Centre, but as my mom always says, health is wealth. So my specialty as well when I was at U of T was neuroscience, so I took quite a few health courses, and that is my plan as well, to enter the healthcare field later on. Let's see when. So I would want to work on the healthcare system, and I'm very passionate about having people receive healthcare that is culturally competent and efficient in nature. I see many instances where people don't know when to go to the doctor, what to do, and they go to the doctor 10 years after they develop some sort of illness, and their doctor tells them, yeah, this is, if you came earlier, this could have been prevented. right? And now you have diabetes and you have to deal with this. I'm sorry, there's no treatment per se. You're just going to have to deal with this with these and these medications. And that just really saddens me. So I would focus on preventative care and improving preventative care and working on the healthcare system to ensure that people receive care that is efficient, fast, and of course culturally competent, because I also know some Muslim women, they don't want to go to their doctors because sometimes they have to remove their hijabs, or they have to wear really short or sometimes revealing clothing, especially when you're going in for an x-ray. So I really want to do some research on that and to see what people's experiences are in Scarborough Center, and of course work on the healthcare system overall.
Okay, thank you very much.
John?
All right, yes.
John, sorry. Before the next question, I do want to say that my canvassing teams have been texting and calling me all evening asking to join them. As I look outside, I see we have about 1 hour of sunlight remaining today, and I would like to continue adding to my 50,000 because we've completed our 50,000 doors knock today. So my team is very, very excited. I will be making this my last question, if that is okay with those on the call this evening. But I look forward to answer any question, and I can share my cell number. If anybody have any question, they can call me directly anytime.
Okay, thank you, Mazar. We will do this last question, and we will be wrapping up soon, as it is. But we will do this last question for you, for the both of you, and then we'll let you say your good nights. How's that?
Thank you. That is
okay. So next question is, if elected, will you help fund integration between GO and TTC? One flat fare in Toronto will unlock more rapid transit access throughout Scarborough. Fatima, you're first.
Yeah, so we're all about transportation. We want to make sure that people are using less, they're not using the vehicles as much, and we want electric transportation. And so definitely we want to fund electric transportation. We want to make sure that people are using buses and, you know, people who are going green, I guess, if I were to phrase it that way. And again, as with regards to my previous question, there's a question similar to this. I don't want to promise anything. Like I can't give any numbers. I can't say completely what, you know, will happen. I will have to, of course, talk to, you know, people in my party. But we're all for transportation, and I'm fairly sure that we should be able to support these. And, you know, of course, whatever works for the Scarborough community, we want to do so. To support you, and want to do so, of course, in a clean, sustainable way and manner, so that in the long run, yes, we can have some form of transportation, but if it is not clean and sustainable and energy efficient, then that would just end up doing us more harm in the future than good. And that's my take on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mazhar.
Thank you, John. I think I already responded to that question, and my answer was yes. As you know, Bucka Ride will commit to not only fare integration by capping the cost of a Metro Pass each month to $40, but also making each and every ride $1. You will be able to travel from Scarborough Centre to downtown Toronto, or even the airport, or even Niagara Falls for just $1. In addition to our commitment to Bucka Ride, we will be investing $350 million each year towards transit infrastructure. As I and every single person on this call today knows, that Scarborough has been shortchanged for meaningful infrastructure for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we've answered, you guys have answered a lot of questions this evening. And Mazhar has said that he does have to go soon, so we can wrap everything up now. I just want to say, Fatima, are you okay with that, or would you like to keep going?
I'm okay with that, but I do understand some people might have wanted to have their questions answered. So I can give my GPO email if that's okay, and we can always set up a meeting.
Absolutely. Well, then why don't we do this? Mazhar will go first, then Fatima, in terms of your 2-minute good evenings, and you can certainly pass on that information there. So Mazhar, if you'd like to go first.
So you mean closing remarks?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I want to again thank you, the organizers, for putting today's debate together, as well as everyone who joined us. And thank you to my fellow candidates. I have a lot of respect for all of you and your commitment to serving our community and making it better. And we heard a lot of good ideas here today. I think we need to remember that no party has a monopoly on good ideas. We need to be open to them wherever they come from. What is clear to me is that Scarborough Center is a progressive riding. We want to see action on housing affordability, on public transit, on ending for-profit long-term care, on investing in healthcare here in Scarborough. And most of all, we want to defeat Doug Ford conservatives and bring progressive leadership back to our community and back to Queen's Park. And the only way we can stop the conservatives in Scarborough Center is if progressive voters come together behind me. The polling in our riding is very clear. If we stand together, we will beat the conservatives. If we stand apart, we will again elect another conservative who will be reliable vote for Ford's cuts and won't speak for the issues that matter to us. That's why groups like the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation and the Elementary Teachers of Toronto have endorsed my campaign and urge their members to support me. So I urge you, if you want to beat the conservatives, if you want a progressive voice at Queen's Park, please vote for me and the Ontario Liberal Party. Together, we will build a stronger Scarborough. I invite you to connect with me at any time on any day, and you can reach at my cell, which is 647-717-5149, or at my email at info@mazarshafiq.ca, and I will answer any of your questions.
Okay,
So
thank you,
you.
Mazar. We have to move on. Thank you. Fatima.
All right, so again, thank you to the organizers for making all this happen, and thank you to the attendees for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. The past 2 years have revealed cracks in the system that we rely on, and this is cracks in the jobs, healthcare, housing, and as a province, we need new solutions to decades-long problems that online parties have failed to solve. The Green Party of Ontario presents a real plan to invest in a caring society where people get the healthcare they need, connected communities with housing we can afford, and a new climate economy that creates jobs, reinvigorates Ontario's manufacturing sector, and protects our natural heritage. As a candidate for Scarborough Centre, I pledge to listen to and amplify the voices of residents to ensure that together we collectively get results and get real solutions to the very real problems of housing, healthcare, transportation, and climate change. As a student researcher, I do not plan to do things haphazardly, and I hope for things to work out by looking at the evidence. We really do need to look at the evidence, the issues and concerns at hand, and figure out equitable and sustainable solutions that will not treat residents as test subjects. I believe in facts, and the fact is that we have to act now, especially with the climate crisis. There is no time to waste. Our climate is inextricably linked to our well-being, our health, and the future of our children and youth. Half measures and no measures won't do. It is now or never. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to thank all of you, really, for this. It's been a great evening. It's an awkward thing to do things like this. We're used to doing debates and town halls in person, and hopefully we can get back to that at some point soon. But I'd like to thank all of our candidates for attending. Thank you to everyone who's worked hard to put this event together tonight. Thank you to all of you who have watched and asked your questions. I hope you got some answers at least. And please remember to vote on June 2nd, or even at the advance polls that start this Thursday. Please go out and vote. And when you go out and vote, make sure you take a friend with you as well. Make sure they vote as well. So good evening, Scarborough Centre. Hope the rest of your night is a wonderful night. Take care.
Thanks, Fatima, for